Good afternoon, everybody. I've bought a new toy. This is going to be my third and final ex-ambulance conversion into a motor caravan. When this came up for sale, I couldn't really resist going to look at it, and it's an interesting vehicle. So, bit of history. As many of you know, I do the odd pieces of electrical work on people's vans, and a couple of years ago, a guy called Augustus Ducatis brought to me an H.A.R.T, which is the Hazardous Accident Response Team vehicle, for me to help him understand some of the electrics. And I was really impressed with it. It was on an Iveco 6.5 ton chassis with an automatic gearbox. He had lots of toys, but the most impressive thing was the vehicle was 2011 and it had only done 15,000 miles. He got an absolute bargain. It was in fantastic condition. I was very envious. A few weeks ago, I saw this that I'm sitting in now up for sale on the Facebook Marketplace, being sold by a private ambulance company. Now, the history of this van is it was sold at Brightwell's in 2019 through auction, and Brightwell's did their normal routine of, to put it politely, unsympathetically decommissioning the vehicle. They let people loose with cutters, they damage the paintwork removing the stickers. It's just a process of vandalisation in my opinion. So quite a lot of the equipment that was originally on this van probably disappeared either when the NHS sold it on or when Brightwell's decommissioned it. The private ambulance company I bought this from then effectively had to pay to buy all the parts to put them back on again, with a few exceptions. So what I've actually bought now is a reasonably intact ex-ambulance, albeit it's not really an ambulance. It was never designed for carrying patients. This is what they call an incident support vehicle. Originally this had a very large satellite dish on the roof for creating a connection to probably a BT service. It had equipment on board to allow them to set up mobile networks, voice networks, video networks for all sorts of incidents. This van I'm sitting in now is 2009. It was built by a company called W.H. Bencen, and hence that's why we've given the van the name Bencen with a C rather than an S. Just because it needed a name, that's why we're going to call this series Project Bencen. This van has only done 30,000 miles, so mechanically it's extremely low mileage. Cosmetically, it's not brilliant. It has effectively sat for 4 years, virtually unused. The private ambulance company that bought it, even though they probably spent a lot buying it and quite a lot of money adapting it for their requirements, this has done, looking at the MOT history, 160 miles in the last, since January 2019, plus the mileage I did when I brought it home. I had some fun and games when I took it for the MOT, because it didn't have an MOT. It hasn't had an MOT for 2, maybe 3 years. I booked it in for an HGV MOT, drove it to the MOT test, couldn't actually collect the vehicle once I'd agreed to buy it until I'd got an MOT booked. And anyone that's tried to book a HGV MOT test recently will realise there can be quite a long waiting list. Anyway, I took it to MOT and it failed. And I had a prohibition notice placed on it, and I couldn't leave the MOT test centre until I fixed the problems. And the problems were the tyres were too old. This has probably only had one change of tyres in its entire life, and the tyres are dated 2011. For an HGV vehicle, the tyres have to be 10 years or younger. And I thought I was stuck with the situation of changing all 6 tyres. Thankfully, I checked with the MOT tester, and he just said, no, only the front 2 matter. And I was able to get, from the time it failed at 12:30 on a Thursday afternoon in pouring rain, week before last, I was able to get an emergency tyre fitter in. He put 3 tyres on it, and the HGV tester was brilliant. He was due to leave at 3:30, and he waited. The tyre fitters turned up just after 3. He waited until the tyres had been replaced, and then took the prohibition notices off and gave me a HGV pass, and I was able to come home. If that hadn't happened, I would have been at Cornwallis in Reading, where I took it for an MOT, until Monday this week. That would have been a bit scary. I'd have been hotels, probably paying them for storage. Oh, it would have been awful, but it worked out. And then I drove the thing home last Thursday, or Thursday before last, in the pouring rain, in the dark, in a vehicle that I'm not very used to. And this is quite a big thing. So there's the background. Bought it from Facebook Marketplace. It had been offered for sale probably back in June. I saw it for sale. No, I didn't. I saw it after it had been sold. He'd marked it as sold. And I actually went down to their location near Horsham in Sussex to look at another vehicle which wasn't suitable at all. And this was there. So I said, oh, it's not been sold. They explained to us they'd had so many people asking to buy it with no intention to come and look at it. They just wanted them to stick it on a flatbed trailer or donate it for free to a charity that allegedly is sending stuff out to Ukraine. And they were being, I think, inundated with scammers. So they decided to take it off the market. Lucky for me, because I said I'll have it after maybe spending a couple of hours going over it. Now, I'll give you a little tour around the inside of the vehicle, but initially, just so that you've got some idea, the box on this vehicle is made of a plastic called Omni panel. It's about 1 inch thick. It's a honeycomb panel. It's amazingly strong, and it's plastic welded, where they've actually joined it at the corners, joined it at the ceiling, and made the partition walls. I've always been very critical of ambulance insulation. If you watch any of my other videos, I've had plenty of opportunity to investigate and work on ambulances, and in general they're not that well insulated. Modular bodied ambulances aren't too bad. They've got about 85% of insulation, but there are still areas that need improvement. This vehicle, amazingly, does not have any insulation at all. I'm shocked, considering this is a working vehicle, mobile office effectively. I haven't found, there isn't any. That rather surprised me. I thought there'd be a modicum somewhere, especially in the ceiling where it really matters. But no, nothing at all. So I will have to strip this all out. Not such a bad thing. Because the vehicle's been standing, it's got damp. It hasn't been used. It's got damp. It's clad, and you can see it behind me. It's a slate grey vinyl. They're vinyl panels. They're stuck on the vinyl stuck onto a plastic cladding, and then that's glued on to the wall either with double-sided tape or an adhesive. The panels will all come off in one piece. In fact, I've taken a few out the back, and I'll show you those in a minute. It just gives me the ability to remove them, use them as templates if necessary, and then I can easily put battens on the walls and insulate and reuse the panels or whatever. The grey is very dark, so I won't be using it extensively, but I may cover it in other material. But it's certainly the panels will be salvageable. As I said, the vehicle's got damp. There's been quite a lot of water getting in here. Consider it's a plastic body, basically, a plastic box. You wouldn't think it would leak, but there's a heck of a lot of stuff on the roof. Enormous amount of equipment on the roof, including probably a dozen antenna. That all the cabling runs into conduit and comes into the vehicle somewhere, and I wouldn't be surprised if it's leaking around there. There's certainly water been getting in the top, looking at the cab, the top left-hand corner. There was a lot of water getting in there, and I won't know until I've got the ceiling down where it's actually leaking from. My gut feeling, it's some of the cable entry points. If they've sealed them, the seal was failed. Who knows? Other thing is it smells because it's got damp. There's a damp smell. Looking at the back of some of the vinyl, the cloth backing the vinyl is wet and stained. So it won't hurt to gut it. Right, better show you around. That is where I was sitting just now. That little bit of black stuff laying on the seats is the trim that went round the secondary double glazing unit for this window. This one was extremely full of condensation, so I've actually taken the secondary double glazing off to clean it, let the cords, for example, for the blinds dry out, and then I will reseal it. There's a black sealant that goes around the frame, and it had failed in places, so I had to dismantle that. There are 4 seats. They don't have seat belts on, but there are 4 seats, and they're nice and comfortable. The large seats, we'll probably keep at least 2 of them. There's a classic camper van table on a movable bracket there. And one of the features of this van is main sockets everywhere. This vehicle had, or has still got, a functional 10 kilowatt diesel generator, plus mains hook up for all the equipment, as well as mains hook up for battery charging. And this was obviously used as a mobile office. So you have these chairs here. There are overhead lockers that all have the 5 kilogram max labels on them. They're plastic fronted, reasonably flimsy. They attach by magnets to magnets in the ceiling. They're very cavernous, but not very practical without shelves inside. But they are there, and I will be reusing them. There's 5 of them in total, 6 of them in total of these. More main sockets. When I went to view the van, there was a TV up there. They took that out. The agreement that I had with them was they'd only take their radio communications equipment out the back of the vehicle, but they've taken them. Certainly there was something up there which is gone. There's a temperature sensor there for the diesel heater. There are 2 Airbus Batcher diesel heaters in this van, independently controlled, front and back. Strangely enough, there isn't a walkway through the cab. There's a bloody great big hole, but they haven't made a doorway, which I find a bit odd. There's a metal box holding a standard car radio, which effectively acts as a step, so you can actually climb through this hole, and below there are all the Genesis modules. The seats are the lovely air-sprung Iveco seats. It's really nice to drive this because you're not getting the normal crashing through your buttocks that you get on standard van seats. It has the standard Genesis ambulance control unit and display at the top, and then a secondary Genesis control unit for things like the camera mast and other fixtures and fittings on this vehicle. There's a weight plate on the top. It's not a weight plate, well, it's a weight plate and measurement plate, which tells me the height, width and length of the vehicle. Amazingly, despite the size of this thing, it's only half a metre longer than my Crafter. There's a microwave, another locker, a mains water heater, just for providing boiling water for drinks, a small sink, a mains fridge, which is effectively maybe 14 years old now. This vehicle's a 2009 vehicle. Don't know how old it is, but it could be 2000. It could be as old as the van. Still works. There's a fire extinguisher bracket down there. Not sure what these black things are. There's 2 of those. They're very bump stops or something. Maybe with a table store. I don't know. Haven't sussed out that. Then this cabinet, filthy dirty. There's normally a panel that goes over there. There's a Sureflow pump, a Truma water heater, which I think is mains. It'd be lovely if it's 12 volts, but I'm pretty sure it's mains. There's a freshwater tank underneath the vehicle, about there. Not massive, but usable. And that is some of the plastic it's made of. It's a honeycomb product, and you can see daylight. You notice over there? That's the yellow paint from the outside of the van. This stuff is translucent, and as I was saying, there's no insulation at all. The only insulation is effectively any modicum of insulation provided by the plastic. But you can also see the way it's joined. It's welded. Amazingly strong construction. Then over here, it has an electric door. This door here is operated on a push button. The reason I bought the vehicle, it has self-leveling jacks. They are brilliant. And then there's another Genesis control panel for controlling the heaters. The extremely archaic and rather noisy extractor fan. Nightel. I can have a fan going. Nightel is effectively the lighting system on the roof, which works, and a few other warning things such as the lights, heater, or that operates both diesel heaters. You can't operate the diesel heaters independently, and unfortunately, it's got these basic controls, and there's not an off position. Sometimes you get these; they click, and then you've got the positions 1 to 5 for the heating temperature setting, but you can normally turn them off. These don't click, and therefore they're on all the time, which is a shame. There's one there, and then there's one over here. Now, what we also have is a partition wall with a sliding door. And it's actually what you call a pocket door. It's actually in the wall. So our layout, hopefully, will keep this wall. Bedroom through there, potentially, and kitchen, living area, whatever you want to do in this area here. Right, so I'll walk through. There's a 42-inch Panasonic plasma TV. I haven't managed to get it to turn on. I think it's knackered. I think it's got a power-related fault. More main sockets. This little dirty area here was where a laser printer was. That works. I've taken it indoors because both of our inkjet printers are packed up, so I've now inherited a colour laserjet, and that's very handy. The TV is mounted on the most substantial bracket you could think of. I mean, that's not going anywhere. It goes all the way through and it bolts through to the other side. There's a dirty great skylight. It's very similar to the one I had in Was, probably the same company, but it's the best side of a metre long. I will have to do something about the stainless steel surround because that will almost certainly gather a lot of condensation, so that's going to get trimmed. You can see some of the aerials on the roof there. There's loads of them. Most of them are snapped off. The lights in here don't work. That was all dismantled. They don't work off the lighting switch. I will deal with, whatever that may be as and when I take it down. There are vents in the ceiling. Originally, I thought they were connected to the air conditioning, and it has a Dometic 240 volt powered air conditioning unit, and I think it does heating as well. But these vents, they're not connected to that at all. That air conditioning only seems to cool the cab area and the office area. Oh, that. I've actually got the operator's manual for the H.A.R.T. And it's got information about the vehicle as and when it was. You can see on there the satellite dish that was originally deployed on the vehicle, and also you can see on there that's the camera mast. That's the light mast. You can actually, with a remote control, you can rotate the lights around, the floodlights, and they are 4 500 watt halogen lights. And then that is a mast that had a camera on it. That camera's died of deaths. But the operator's manual, it just basically tells you how to use the vehicle. It tells you how to operate the step, what Genesis does. And there, which is just in the dashboard by the steering wheel, that is an isolator switch for Genesis. And it works very, very well. It turns Genesis off good and proper. I like that. But it's very handy that I've ended up with a book of words. This sort of stuff normally disappears with any vehicle that goes for an auction. There's an emergency release there for the electric door. Right, so we have a 3 kilowatt Victron multi-plus inverter there, which does inverting and charging. I've currently got mains hookup connected and it's charging the batteries. There's a control panel for the diesel generator, and when the diesel generator is running, the fuel gauge actually shows the status of the diesel tank. It's got a dedicated diesel tank just for the generator, and it's actually bigger. I think it's a 100 litre tank. It's bigger than the one for the engine. And that is the mains consumer unit. At the bottom there are contactors, in the middle there are contactors, so that it can segregate either the generator or 240 volts mains input or 110 volts mains input. Then you've got various breakers for the incoming supplies, and then at the top breakers for the various services, the ring mains, the lights on the lighting tower, the fridge. It did have a UPS originally in this gap here. Top to bottom was a 42U high comms rack, and I'll stick a photograph in there of what it looked like. That would have been full to the gunnels with network equipment, communications equipment, satellite controllers, everything that operated the stuff on the roof, everything that was necessary to provide the service. It also had an uninterruptible power supply, and some of the circuits there ran off the UPS, and they're both isolated at the moment, and so is the fridge isolated because I'm not using them. I've actually disconnected them. Right, then somebody, probably the people I bought it from, fitted a couple of solar panels on the roof, but they bought one of these diabolically awful £3 in a flea market PWM controllers, which has already died. They're dangerous things. I don't like them. So, as I say, this big opening here was where the comms rack went, and removing this rack was an absolute nightmare. It was bolted through the floor, and it had 2 large metal brackets. You can see the shadow where they were up the top there. And once I'd managed to get all the bolts out and get the brackets off the top of the rack, there was maybe 5mm not enough to get the rack out the door and actually tip it backwards to clear the height of the door frame. So I had to remove, there's actually an access panel there. And with that removed, you can get the rack out, but it was hard work, and I almost wonder if they actually built the van with the rack around it. Again, you can see just how much light comes in through the vehicle. Let's open the back door. So when the rack was here, and the rack came back roughly to there was no access through the vehicle. The only way you could get to this toilet, which is covered in leaves, because there's been, I think squirrels and things are getting as well. The only way you could get to the toilet was through this back door. It was completely separate from the control room, and the control room, as you can see, has got a lock-in door. The operator in here, there's only one operator operating the 4 or 5 screens that were mounted on these brackets here, as well as all the equipment. I think he could lock himself away if you had to. Then, in addition to the 42-inch screen there, which would probably have the camera feed and stuff like that, there's a screen there. Oh, sunlight. It's a Sanyo 42-inch LCD with a touchscreen element built in. It's actually fitted. You can see how much space there is in this toilet area, because there's the wall of the toilet. The grey panelling was all stuck on with Velcro, and I've taken it all off. But that screen, which I shall show in a minute, gave the operational commanders a view of the cameras, and they could interact with it, operate the camera, I suppose, and zoom in on things, as well as talking to people. There's a hand wash unit there where you actually just put water in the top, and it's got a little fold down sort of like sink. I won't be keeping that, but it's an interesting little unit. And then it's got a water outlet that goes straight out. Same with the sink at the front of the vehicle. There's no grey tank, it just goes straight out of the ground. Other than that, not much to say. Step outside. Fire extinguisher. Vent for the radiator from the generator. And I've still got all the original ambulance lighting and everything else. And as you probably know, when the auction houses decommission these vehicles, they normally rip all the lenses off, and you're just left with a load of chopped off wires. But that's all been reinstated, it all still works. I shall probably add some more red and orange lights up there when I take the blue lights out, because that's handy, because obviously those red and orange lights need to remain. There are scene lights all around, and these come on when it's in reverse. Let's go around this side to start with. One of the interesting things is there's only windows on that side of the van. 2 windows there, and there is also a window in the door. And that is glass, and those 2 windows there are glass, but that is a sheet of Perspex, black Perspex. And the same with that sheet there, and there's the screen, the touch screen, which I haven't got working yet. I haven't got a remote control for it, but there are external speakers, and then there's a little vent there, because obviously that could get quite hot, the TV. And again, there's scene lights on the outside. It also comes with an awning. Don't know what brand. Takes a heck of a lot of winding to open it up, but it does still work. Inside this locker here, which I've got open at the moment, simply because I can't open it when the door's open, you have the Victron inverter, and under there, 2 Urbaspatcher D2 heaters. Why 2 and not 1, I don't really understand. Oh, got that wrong. But one thing that's really, really strange is there's a heater outlet. Not as in heater for the exhaust. That is a hot air outlet to warm up the outside world. I'm guessing, because there's an awning rail over there. There isn't one over there though, but it may well be that bolt hole there could hold an awning rail. I'm guessing they could close off the awning, the area, and fit up a completely enclosed awning, and then that was a way of providing some heat, if necessary, into that area. But one diesel heater basically comes out of here to heat this front part of the vehicle, and the other diesel heater blows hot air into the awning area and hot air into the rear office. There's the electric motor for the door control. Also in this container here, there's a mains battery charger. Haven't tested that yet. I haven't got a Cosmil mains hookup plug to play with. And then just above the box that the diesel heater is in, that is a 240 volts to 110 volt transformer, because this vehicle can also provide power out for other emergency service vehicles. The main low voltage distribution box is really nicely done. I mean, that's a lovely buzz bar, that is. There's a small fuse board in there, and when I first bought this van, the hydraulics jacks didn't work, and all these fuse covers have been off, and I thought, oh, somebody's been in here. I did a bit of investigating, and it turned out to be a loose connection actually in the hydraulics. In this cubbyhole here, you have the leisure batteries and the hydraulics for the jacks. And there's one very large leisure battery in there and one little titty one, a bit odd. There's the access to the cassette for the toilet. My drive, I thought, was relatively flat. It clearly isn't. The self-levelling system wasn't happy at the angle the vehicle was at, so I've actually got the front jacks on a couple of wooden blocks. And I say, even though the drive doesn't look like it's sloping that much, you can see the front wheels are a good 4 or 5 inches off the ground. But that vehicle is now level, and you know, I'm well chuffed to bits with those, because they're over £6,000 installed now. We did get a price when we were building the Crafter, and these effectively, well, these equate to more than half of what I pay for the vehicle. The blue lights on the front here are the only lights I probably need to take off immediately, because you're not supposed to drive with a visible blue light on a vehicle. They only work when the ignition's on. The other blue lights on the top, they will work straight away. Right, let's go around the other side. Combined 240 volt and 110 volt mains hookup, which I think only goes to the battery chargers, the mains battery charger, just for topping up the batteries. Interesting bit of waffle there. Screens in all ambulances work only with the ambulance software. Not too sure about that. Then we have access there to the exhaust, the Urbis battery exhaust. It's not a lock or anything, it's just literally a cover. There are access covers for the rear wheels. So this vehicle is going to keep itself quite clean. Then we have a 32 amp mains connection, which I'm currently using to power the vehicle. That operates everything in the vehicle, and the generator is not required. The reason why I've called it Bencen is because there is the coach builder's label, Bence Coach Works. Inside this container here, which isn't open, are 2 yellow 110 volt outlets and one blue, or 1 or 2 blue 230 volt outlets, so they can provide power from the generator. And then under here is where the generator lives. And this has done 3,000 hours, which is probably about half the life of this type of generator. It works, and it works very nicely. It runs everything in the vehicle. Will I be keeping it? Almost certainly not. It weighs 300 kilograms. That's a lot of weight. I can use this cupboard. It's a very big cupboard. I can use this for a lot of things. When I went to look at the van, it worked. This generator was on, but I don't remember how long they ran it for. When I got home a week ago, I started testing things in the vehicle to work out what does and doesn't work. This would only run for a while, and then it would cut out. And there's the software that operates it issues flashes depending on the error code on an orange light here, and it was flashing once, which meant it had overheated. It shouldn't have overheated, because up there is a dirty great big Ventaxia mains power cooling fan in front of the radiator, but that fan wasn't working. So I thought, oh, maybe the thermostatic switch, which is over there, I don't know whether you can just see it, there's a thermostatic switch there. I thought maybe that wasn't working. Took the wires off, shortened them together, fan didn't come on. What I did notice was in this unit here, there's a relay. And the red light was coming on. I could hear the relay clicking. I took the cover off, tested the output of the relay, no volts. It wasn't providing 240 volts because it's a 240 volt fan. Then I got a little bit suspicious. So I took the cover off the consumer unit and I took the back cover off the control board for the fan. And to cut a long story short, somebody's either replaced the fan or they've attempted to do something with the cabling. I'm not sure what, but that cable there has got 5 conductors in it. 1 green, yellow standard earth cable and 4 black wires. Somebody had managed to swap the live to the motor with the wires coming from the control unit that actually have the fan's got a built-in thermal cutout. They'd got the 2 wires swapped over. As soon as that relay switched on, the breaker there, which is currently turned off, was tripping out. And they'd managed to basically create a dead short between live and neutral. I've now corrected the wiring mistake, so I cannot understand how it happened or who did it or when it happened. It could have been like it for ages. But unfortunately, the relay's burnt out, so I need to get a new DIN rail relay. And then I'll be able to run the generator permanently. The generator uses its own little battery, and it's currently in the garage because I took it off to test it. It looked a bit... Mains things are always worth checking, and they've been out in the wet and damp. And the battery charger that sits on the shelf here didn't look particularly healthy, so I disconnected it from this fuse spur here, took it indoors. So there you are. That's the outside of the van. Then this white thing up there is the camera mast. This probably goes up, it's 1, 2, I think it's 4 sections, maybe 5 sections. It needs, you can see all the rust stains from there. There was a metal plate up there that's got extreme rust in it. The rain's washed the rust staining down the mast poles, and it's really sticky and mucky. So I'm not sure if it's going to go up or not. The mast is actually driven by a small air compressor in the back there. There it goes. Only 2 sections are working, because you can see how much filth and muck's all over it. It's really sticky, so I'm going to have to dismantle the thing. I haven't decided what I'm going to do with this mast yet. I'm sure I can think of something, even if it's just putting a flag on it. And then I won't get my ladder out, because it's... Actually, I will get my ladder out. So as I said, the mast only goes up 2 sections at the moment. It could be, because it's held together by grub screws. It may actually be that it's clamped, and that's the height they've got it set to. But it's ever so filthy, needs dismantling and cleaning, assuming I actually keep it. That is the bracket the original satellite dish was mounted on. I've had to chop a part of it away. I will be taking the whole thing off because it's redundant, but I had to chop a part of it away to get access to the bolts that are holding the brackets in for the server rack. It's got an extractor vent over there in the bathroom. That will probably get replaced with a small skylight with a vent in it. One solar panel there, the other solar panel was there. I had to take it off to get at the bolt holes, and it's just sitting on the roof there. There's the top of the domestic air conditioning unit, and over there in the background, that is the lighting mast. And then you have all these antennas all the way along. They're in various states of decay. The roof is aluminium skinned on top of the composite plastic. There's a sensor there. When I was driving it home, it kept telling me the satellite was deployed. And that's because the sensor there isn't detecting probably a magnet or whatever was connected to it once upon a time. Each side of the vehicle has got these cable trays. And I'm pretty certain that underneath that one I will find an area that's not sealed to the vehicle where the water's getting in. It's got an airport beacon which still works, and on the top of the lighting tower there you can just about see a green flashing beacon as well. This lighting tower only extends by a few feet. I'm thinking, can I mount a wind turbine on it? Is it going to be substantial enough to take a small wind turbine? Because that would be really, really handy. And then on this mast, I probably will put a camera on there, because it can at times be handy to see what's going on outside. And if I get one that does infrared, we might be able to see a few animals. Now, I can't remember whether I've got it switched on or not. I think I have. No, I haven't. Let's just turn it on. Now, when the vehicle's on the jacks, it's quite a climb to get inside.
Night owl power activated.
There's a relay in the mains distribution board, 12-volt relay, that then provides mains to the lights. I think it's just to the lights. It may actually be the actual mast for the lights is also driven by a 12-volt compressor. I hope so. That would be really, really useful. But certainly the 2 or the 4 spotlights, they're mains driven. And you can see, I was saying just now, it thinks the mast is up and it thinks the satellite dish is up. I don't know which mast this refers to, whether it refers to the one I've just raised at the back of the vehicle or the one I'm about to raise, but you can see that's correct at the moment. That dish up is wrong because the dish isn't there. Chalk torch still works, which is handy. Fire extinguishers everywhere. Crappy radio that hasn't even got an aerial plugged in, but it makes a noise, so I can probably use it. There's a brigade reversing camera and a brigade screen. The screen's buggered. It only shows half the image. It's usable as a reversing camera, but you can only see one half the screen. The rest is all fuzzy lines. And the rubber or the plastic or whatever it's made of has gone, it's probably degraded in the sunlight and it's all sticky. It is horrible, yuck, and that's going in the bin. The box, there's a box in the front of the vehicle, probably had comms equipment in it, which prevents, it's taken a bit of the head height from here, and this may actually all come out, so we've got better head height. Don't know yet. But these Iveco seats, you pre-tension it based on your body weight, and then they go up and down. Oh, really nice. Right, let's see if we can play with this gadget. So this is the remote control for the tower. And you arm it first of all with that yellow button, and if it's happy, all the red lights come on. Are they going to show? They're flashing on here, aren't they? Because it's the way the camera's working, but they're not flashing here. And then you have a raise button. And you can probably hear it. There it comes. So it raises up vertical. And then the compressor kicks in. So the motor that's raising it vertically could well be a mains motor. As I say, I hope the compressor's 12 volts, but I won't know until I explore it. It's 2 sections. It's much more substantial than that mast. And then once it's raised, you can rotate. And it goes up and down. So you can light up a reasonable area. 2 of the bulbs blue. You can see the green light flashing on the top, but 2 of the bulbs blue within a day or so of getting it. But a very useful gadget. And then it puts itself to bed. Once the air's dropped out, it will actually rotate around and then lower itself in position. Whether I use it, I don't know. It's just there and it works, and I could well end up playing with it. If the mains is disconnected, so if I disconnect the mains hook up, or if the diesel generator stops, it automatically folds itself away, because it doesn't need very much power to put itself to bed. So it may well be that motor that's raising it is 12 volts as well. But there you go. Let's put that back in there for the time being. So I thought I'd give people a walk around of the vehicle before I start dismantling it, so you can see, well, really for my own benefit as well, and see what it was like when I got it before I started ripping it apart. There's a thing from the past. Not allowed to use red diesel for generators or even heating anymore. So that tank is enormous. If I take the generator out, that could well become our wastewater tank. It's probably going to be too big to be wastewater, but I'm not going to let it go. You know, the other option might be to link the two together so that we've got, I can either fill the vehicle on either side and carry a huge amount of fuel if I need it.
Arriving mode activated.
We still have some working blue lights. They're only blue when they're illuminated, so I'm not under any obligation to take them off. And that might be a little party trick at shows and things when we go in. But I don't know whether I'll keep them or not. I say the blue ones on the front, on the grille and on the side of the wings, I'll definitely taking those off. And I certainly want to take out the ones in the centre there. I'm probably going to try and get a lighting bar up there. That would be very handy if I can get a light bar behind there, because the light bar I've got on the craft is very, very useful. So there you go. Now that I've made this little video tour, it's partly for my own reference as much as showing you guys what I'm up to, I can now start stripping this out, taking all the lockers out, taking the seats out, and getting the ceiling down. And I expect to find somewhere a squirrel nest. I'm pretty certain this bit had squirrels in it. There's ends of acorns all over the place dropping out the ceiling. I hope they haven't gone mad and caused too much damage, but I certainly expect to find squirrels. They're either up inside this top corner here somewhere, because that's where I found most of the debris, or they may have even got into the cowling above the cab, the fairing above the cab. As I said, inside the cab, there's a cabinet here, there's some cabling behind it, it may have had comms equipment in it. Without that cabinet there, I can probably make a higher area to stand if we need it. This is a tall vehicle. Did I mention measurements? Can't remember. Right, the box from the access hole to the back door is almost exactly 5 metres long. The width at the moment, bearing in mind it's not insulated, is 2.3 metres, and the height of the ceiling at the moment, and this is a drop ceiling, there's about 4-inch void above it, is 2.1 metres. My thinking is that this area here is wide enough for a double bed. And I've prototyped before an electric drop down bed, and I think that's what's going to go in here. There'll be more than enough height to the ceiling to have the bed coming down. When you bear in mind that that intrusion there I cannot take out because that's got the inverter and a few other bits and pieces behind it. This table, or this bench rather, that can come out. But we're going to have to use this area, this box. So the bed's only going to be able to come down as far as... Oh look, somebody spilled coffee down the side there. The bed will only be able to come down to rest on there. And the end of the bed, in order to get it fully up into the ceiling, is going to have to miss this protrusion as well, because that is where the awning is, because the awning is actually integral to the vehicle. So I think I've got enough room, once these cabinets are out of the way, to have a full-length bed that goes past this point here, up to there, and we can still walk under without any problem at all. Whether I've taken the door off, by the way, for the toilet, the hinges were damaged, so I've just taken the door off before anything else happens. Ideally, it would be nice if the bog was at the other end and the door was at this end, but we'll see. I'm not a great fan of cassette toilets. I may not keep the cassette toilet. The one in here is pretty rank and it does need to be removed and sterilised and pressure washed and but whether we actually keep the bathroom layout as it is, I don't know. And then this area here, that's going to be clothing. You know, there's a huge area there for space for clothing and everything else. That's the thinking at the moment. It may all change as I begin to dismantle it. We will see. And that will be in a future episode. Right, I'll say thanks for watching. I'll try and edit this so it's not too long. But as I said, I've filmed this primarily because I'll be able to look back at this. Same as my other two videos. If you haven't subscribed to my channel and looked at some of the videos I did on Project WAD's was my original Sprinter, or Project Thistle, my current Crafter. Feel free to watch them, but I did van tours of them before I started pulling them apart as well, just so that it's a point of reference. But as I said, thanks for watching. Next video in a couple of weeks, probably with nothing inside this vehicle left at all. Bye for now.